What up, y'all? Let's have a little chat.
You can scream and shout with all your might.
And scream, shout, whine, cry, snivel, piss, moan.
Dig in your heels and hold on tight.
And shove your opinion up your ass. That way Obama's cock has something to keep it company.
Either you are wrong or I am right.
And don't forget, the ever-present, the most likely, the third possibility. You are wrong, and I am right. How's it going, y'all? I am the Great One himself, the founder of the Cynical Libertarian Society, here today with some CLSology to drop upon you. And what you are listening to right now is the Stating the Obvious podcast. It is the weapons platform from which I launched the cruise missile of my intellect that hones in on and destroys statists all over the world. And thanks to the magic of the interwebs, I can send the cruise missile out in audio MP3 format and mow down statists. It's just like shooting them with an M60 machine gun. Except instead of killing them, I just hurt their little fucking feelings as they go, but who would build the roads? Roads! Who would build roads? Let's talk about the roads. Actually, we're not going to talk about the roads. We probably will talk about the roads. It always comes down to the roads. Because, according to statists, the entire... What's the word I'm looking for? The thing which supports all of society, is the roads. If there were no fucking roads, everything would collapse. The trees would stop growing if there were no roads. Alright, I'm here on my own today, unsupervised. It could get interesting. Actually, it's going to be very mellow. This is going to be kind of a fireside chat. I want to tie up a couple of loose ends, and I also want to talk more about what I talked about in a previous edition of Anarchy Moment, where I was talking about police forces and education in an anarcho-capitalist society. I want to talk some more about education in an ANCAP society, especially as I'm so surrounded by it. Here in the People's Republic of Fort Collins, we have a college here, Colorado State University. For anybody new, I've worked there for 8 years. If you go back to the older podcast, you can hear story after story that I have told about the corruption and the bullshit. And today, here in the People's Republic of Fort Collins, it is a Tour de Fat, which, for those of you not in the know, Tour de Fat is an event we have every year where everybody, well, not everybody, but it seems like a good 40% of the population of the city dresses up in costumes and rides their bicycles in a giant parade. So it is 11:15 in the morning right now, and the drunk college kids are already outside. You may in fact hear them because I have the window open here in the studio. So shh, quiet. You may have been able to hear them. They're quieting down a little bit, but they're already drunk. They're already talking about where they're going to pass out tonight. They're already talking about who they had sex with last night. They are the future of America. And by the future of America, I mean future bartenders, future waitresses, future baristas, future shoe salesmen. They are the future. Yes, indeed. God at cynlibsoc.com. That's where you can send the email. It's God. It's dog spelled backwards. We're on the interwebs. cynlibsoc.com. Also on the YouTubes. And thank you to whoever donated Bitcoins recently. I only open my Bitcoin wallet about every 2 weeks or so. And I opened up the wallet today just to update the blockchain. And I saw that somebody had donated some Bitcoin action to the CLS. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. In a previous edition of Stating the Obvious, I mentioned a movie, but I didn't remember the name of the movie, and I said I was going to link to it. I didn't link to it. But anyway, it's the movie I mentioned where people use time as money, and when you run out of time, you die, and it's a dystopian type thing. And I mentioned that was pretty damn good. So anyway, having realized that I didn't know the fucking name of it and that I didn't link to it, I went looking. Fortunately, I still had the file on my computer because I got the movie off of YouTube. I downloaded the full movie from YouTube. The name of the movie is Fair Game, which apparently there's a whole slew of movies named Fair Game. I was trying to find the movie on YouTube so I could link to it, and I, after doing some searching, was unable to locate it, so I'm not able to link to it. I don't know if that means I'm just not searching for the right thing I need to search for to find it, or if it got taken down. Anyhow, perhaps it's available on DVD. I still recommend watching it. As I was looking for it, I found out that it is written, well, and I watched the movie to see who wrote it, produced it, directed it, all that other shit to help me narrow it down. So the person who wrote, produced, and directed this movie is Andrew Niccol. I'm not exactly sure if that's how you pronounce his name. Niccol, who's the same guy who made Gattaca. Which makes a lot of sense, because it has an awful lot of the same feel to it that Gattaca does. So if you're wondering if you would like this movie, I would say to you that if you liked Gattaca, then you would like this movie. Again, it's called Fair Game. Don't know what year it came out. I didn't research that part. But it's by Andrew Niccol, same guy who did Gattaca. So I would imagine it's got to be available on DVD, since he's a, I don't know if I say he's a big name producer director, but I mean he made Gattaca. Yes, a new $30 croquet set. God, they're loud. Little shits. It's okay. As I've said before, they really don't bother me. I mean, first of all, if you're bothered by college kids and you live in Fort Collins, that might be a mistake. And then, of course, I live, and also our recording studio, both where I live and the recording studio for the C to the L to the S, are located near the Old Town area and near college campus. And therefore, there's a lot of college kids around. I don't begrudge them. I make fun of them, yes, but I make fun of everybody. I don't begrudge them their drunken debauchery, because as I've said before, these college kids, in anywhere from 1 to 5 years, all those people out there right now getting drunk, playing croquet, they're playing croquet, which is kind of cool. They're all, not all, most of them, 95% of them are going to be in one of two situations. They are going to be working as waiters or waitresses, or working in coffee shops or bartending. They're going to be doing something that has nothing to do with what they wanted to do or think they want to do with their life or what they got educated in. And the other chunk of that 95%, they're going to be doing something vaguely resembling something they went to college for, but they're going to be sitting in a cubicle for some fucking corporation that doesn't care if they live or die. And, you know, after a couple of years, they're going to get laid off. 95% of those kids out there right now have nothing ahead of them but a miserable life of working and paying taxes so that old people can get their Medicare and their Medicaid and their Social Security, and so that welfare parasites can get their welfare payments, and so that corporate welfare parasites can get their corporate welfare payments, and so that the government can buy more guns and weapons for the military and the police force. So I think it's okay for them to enjoy their lives while they can. As I've talked about before, my friend that I mentioned a couple of casts ago, she went to college, she got her degree, she's had 3 different jobs, all working for colleges, and she's just miserable as hell. And her jobs have nothing to do with her degree. And she sits in an office pushing paperwork around, and she hates it. And right now, she just put in an application for another job. Another office job. Another office job at the same college she works at now. And she thinks it's going to be so much better if she gets it. It's like, how fucking oblivious to reality can you be? And how much of a failure can the statist education system be? So let's talk about education in an anarcho-capitalist society. That's going to be the title of this podcast. I'm going to write that down before I forget, because Randy is not here to take notes for me and hold my hand. So how does education work in an anarcho-capitalist society? When your children are young, there's no elementary school or junior high school. You homeschool your kids. They would learn from doing things. And it doesn't all have to be you. Liberals, well, and conservatives as well, all statists, left-wing statists and right-wing statists, love to talk about community, right? Both of them can't shut the fuck up about community. So in an anarcho-capitalist society, you would have a community in which the children could learn different skills and different knowledge sets from different people who are able to teach them. Right, the person in your community who's really good at math could teach all the kids math. And perhaps you pay this person. Perhaps all the parents chip in and say, hey, you know, we send our kids all over to your place, and you'll teach them math, and we'll each give you $100, right? And you'll teach them math for a month or whatever. Or maybe the people who are doing this have kids of their own, and so it's just a barter system, right? If you had, say, for example, 12 families who had children, they could come together. And each of these families, their home could be the school for a month. And so the kids would come over there and they learn some stuff and do some stuff. And then the next month they go to a different home. And nobody would pay anybody money. They would just all provide this service. Right? So maybe in one home, maybe the husband, this is going to get all sexist because I'm going to imply that women stay at home and raise children and that men go out and make money. Oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. So maybe one of the husbands is an engineer. Great. He teaches some mathematics and engineering and things like levers and pulleys and stuff like that. You got another husband, maybe he's a botanist. So he teaches biology. And the parents, well, they're all parents, the mothers, right? One mother teaches the kids how to sew, how to use a fucking sewing machine. Because, you know, this is a big chunk of why our public education is such a fucking failure. I haven't been to high school or elementary or junior high or anything else in a long time, but I always have to wonder, like, what the fuck are they learning in there? Are they learning anything useful? It doesn't seem like they are. So why children need to be taught things like how to fucking sew. You know, your clothes get ripped, you need to mend them. Button comes off, sew the fucking button on. Okay, granted, it's not that hard. Yeah, you could go on YouTube and learn it. But you could also simply be fucking taught. Being taught things like, I mean, I've met people who don't know how to do their own fucking laundry. You can teach, God, that's sexist. I just implied that women could teach children how to do laundry. Oh, God, I must obviously hate women and children so much. No, it's better to be completely fucking helpless and not know how to do. Or it's like I've always said about cooking, right? I say it all the time, and I've been called sexist for this all the time, for implying that women should know how to cook food. How dare you? I've been told this, that I'm a sexist pig because I think women should know how to cook. Yes, God forbid that a fucking woman know how to prepare her own fucking food. Because you're so strong and independent. Alright, I don't want to turn this into a rant about women. Oh God, stop it. But you could teach them cooking. This is a valuable fucking skill. You could teach them cooking. You could teach them things like how to preserve food. You could teach them how to dry food. So there's just all sorts of things that young children could be learning in a home and community environment. Elementary school is completely unnecessary. The reason it exists now is because, of course, it begins the indoctrination of the children, and it begins the process of teaching them that the government owns their body when, you know, they have to raise their hand to go take a piss, and, you know, and it teaches them that you have to be in this particular place 5 days a week at a particular time until a particular time, and you have to go where you're told to go during that time frame. So all of that is there to start conditioning them at a young age to be good workers in a factory or in a cubicle farm. So when they get to an older age where they start figuring out, or where, you know, as kids get older, it will start to become apparent what they're interested in, what their strengths are, things like that. So at this point, you might want to have, you don't have to have, it's an anarcho-capitalist society, you can do what you want. But at this point, if your child starts showing, hey, an inclination towards mathematics, or music, or engineering, or biology, or whatever, and the child is really interested in this stuff, at this point you might want to provide more specialized and advanced training for the kid. And at this point, what we'll call an equivalent, an anarcho-capitalist equivalent to high school would come into effect. So people out there would start schools where kids, probably age maybe 14 to 18. I guess that's high school ages, right? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, sure. I don't fucking know anything about who's in high school anymore. They're just kids. Well, I care. Damn kids, get off my lawn. And you damn college kids, get off my lawn. So your kids 14 to 18 years of age can attend this school. And in the school, they can learn more advanced things. Now, of course, you would probably have, unlike what we have now, specialized schools. So you might have I'm going to call them high schools, just because they need a term, and that's the word I'm going to use. You'd have a high school, perhaps, that was primarily about science. You might have a high school that was primarily about mathematics and engineering. Maybe you have a high school that's primarily about biology and medicine. Maybe you have a high school that is primarily about, what's something useful. See, and here's the thing. You would not have any high schools that are about things like African American studies or women's studies. And here's why. Because, just as I discussed with colleges in the previous edition of Anarchy Moment, where I talked about this, and I'll talk about it some more in this episode of Stating the Obvious also when we get to colleges. But these high schools would be businesses. So how would they make money? Well, the parents sending the kids there would pay them. But here's the thing. See, what does the current statist high school system do for children? When you, right now, 2014, is it 2004? Yes, it's 2014. It's the year 2014. You come out of high school, you've got a high school diploma. What can you do with that? What good is it? It's absolutely fucking worthless. It has prepared you in no specialized way whatsoever. And while it has prepared you in a generalized way, it's the most shallow generalized education you can imagine. It's a completely worthless credential. Now, a statist might argue that, well, it provides people with the bare minimum amount of knowledge they need to survive and to interact in our society. To which I would counter, you can get the minimum amount of knowledge you need to survive by simply interacting with other people and going on the internet and using Khan Academy. Subjecting people to 12 years of public education in order to make them smart enough to get by in society. I mean, if that's the end goal of 12 years of public education, that's pretty depressing. Now, of course, again, we know, we anarcho-capitalists, you and I, we know the real purpose of public school, again, is to create slaves. It's to create people who are obedient and who are smart enough to work for a corporation but not question the corporation, create people who are smart enough to obey the government but not question the government. So we know what's really going on. But the statist will, of course, come up with some kind of... That's an interesting question. I need to ask some statist. Because I'm just guessing how a statist would justify... Like, if I said to a statist, what is the value of a high school diploma? I really don't know what the statist would say, because, God, I have just eliminated so many fucking statists from my life. And I'll talk about that a little bit in an upcoming edition of Stating the Obvious, which may or may not get recorded today. By the way, I've been saying that there was a fantastic edition of Stating the Obvious coming up. This is not it. I'm still working on the show notes for that, because yes, I actually have show notes, and it's more than just scribbling some shit on a piece of paper, which is what my show notes usually look like. So I don't know how your average statist would answer the question, what is the value of a high school diploma? I think I need to find out. I'd really be interested in hearing that. Anyhow, in an anarcho-capitalist society, the high schools would be specialized. And parents would send the kids there, and like any other business, you wouldn't get paid unless there was progress. Now, how would the progress be measured? It would be measured by, does the high school deliver to the student what is promised at the end of the student's tenure in the high school? So you would go in, not simply as you do today, students go to high school because the government says you have to, and it's the law. It's the law. I love when a statist, well, it's the law. You have to do it. It's the law. Fuck you. Fuck you and die. Right? All those Jews in concentration camps? Hey, man, that was the law. So just shut up about it, man. That was the law. In the ANCAP society, if a child went to a high school, they'd be going there for a specific reason. I would envision that high schools would serve two primary purposes. One of them would be to teach a trade. The other would be to prepare students for college. So essentially, let's break those down. Teaching a trade, preparing for college. We have vocational schools today, but of course you can't go to a vocational school until you've made it through high school. Which, why? I don't know. Oh yeah, because it's the law. That's why. If a child wants to be, I call them children, they're young adults, whatever, a young person decides, you know, I want to be an electrician. I want to be a plumber. I want to be, what, a carpenter. Something like that. Something that you would go to a trade school for. Any electronic technician. A x-ray technician. something like that. There is no reason in hell, other than it's the law, that, for example, a 14-year-old kid cannot go and start learning about being an electrician. Now, Stefan Molyneux has talked about this at length over and over and over. So to briefly summarize, a big part of why we don't want young people to pick up a trade and start working early is because, of course, they'll compete with old people, right? Plumbers don't want a bunch of 16 and 17-year-old plumbers to come into the market, because if you're a plumber and you're 40 years old, that 17-year-old who can do the job you can do it faster, do it better, do it smarter, he's a threat to your financial income. So you always have to remember that in our society, a huge chunk, and this is something I'm going to talk about in the upcoming episode, a huge chunk of statism is driven by fear. And as an example, in fact, let me put this in my notes. All right. The 40-year-old plumber, the 50-year-old plumber is terrified that some young person is going to take their business from them, is going to take their customers and put them out of business, right? This is why the old people create or maintain unions to keep the kids down. This is why the old people want regulations on the industry to keep the kids from coming into the business. This is why the old people want the kids in high school till they're 18 and then want them to go to college, because all of this keeps them out of the workforce. And going to college, in addition to keeping the kids out of the workforce, also puts them into a large amount of debt. So if you come out of college with a large amount of debt, that limits what you can do. It limits you. It means you have to find a job that makes a significant amount of money to pay the debt. If you don't, it takes so much of your income goes to paying your debt. God damn, they got loud out there. That was the college girl mating call. Ah! All right. Anyway, let's not make fun of college kids yet. It's coming. Yeah, so she said. All right. Train of thought, where'd it go? What the fuck was I talking about? Oh. You go to college, you come out, you've got so much debt that you have to get a job, right? You can't afford to try to start your own business. You can't afford to try to start your own plumbing business because you owe all this money. You've got to go get a job. So now you're working 40 hours a week, and most of your money is going to pay off the college debt. You can't save any money. So all of this comes together to keep 17-year-old kids from hanging up their shingle as a plumber and competing with the 40-year-old plumber, because the 40-year-old plumber does not want competition. So in the ANCAP paradise, one function of high schools is to serve as trade schools. So you would learn things like that. You could learn plumbing, you could learn electrical work, you could learn carpentry, you could learn electronic technician, you could learn to be an x-ray technician. You could quite possibly learn to be an accountant. And again, this, if these kids are so fucking, and all parents think their kids are just geniuses, and of course kids these days all think that they're the smartest generation ever, yet they're completely incapable of seeing the scam that has engulfed them. But when, there are some of you out there who are statists who are going to say that, 16-year-old kids can't be accountants. I'm going to say to you that's complete bullshit. Of course they can. A 16-year-old kid, not every 16-year-old kid, but there are 16-year-old kids who are perfectly fucking capable of doing accounting. They're perfectly capable, if I can talk. I'm not capable of talking, but there are 16-year-old kids who are completely capable of being electricians. They are completely capable of being carpenters. The only reason the statist thinks they aren't is because the statist has been conditioned to believe that, I don't even know what. I mean, I really don't. I always remark whenever some fucking statist tries to explain to me that, you know, I just don't understand, that I'm just naive, I just don't understand why we need the government, all this other shit. It really, I don't want to say it pisses me off because I'm over it, but it's insulting, and it shows how incredibly stupid they are, because statists always assume that people who are ANCAPs just like came out of the womb and have been ANCAPs all of their lives. Statists do not understand that everyone, every motherfucker alive that is an anarcho-capitalist was at some point in their life a statist. And the idea that we ANCAPs don't know what these statist arguments are for, you know, the roads, or why we need welfare, or why we need the military, or why we need the police, or why we have to have taxes, right? The idea that we ANCAPs just are so stupid and naive that we just don't understand these things. Whenever a statist tries to tell myself or another ANCAP that we just don't understand, it makes me think of a like a 19-year-old first-year pre-med student who goes to a neurological surgeon who has 15 years of experience and starts trying to tell him how to cut a skull open. That's what it's like when a fucking statist tries to tell an ANCAP about how we just don't understand it. If we just think about it, if we could just understand why it's important to pay taxes, but we're just so naive. No, you stupid little shit. We are not naive. We have moved beyond your stupid ideas. You're the naive person here. You're just too fucking dumb to know that you're naive. So the point of that is that I'm trying to think like a statist, which isn't that hard to do, because all you have to do is kill off most of your brain cells and then shove your head up your ass, and you can have the exact same perspective as a statist. And again, this is one of the things, is I'm trying to think, so what is the statist rationale for believing that 16-year-old kids are not capable of working? Oh, I know! Because it's illegal! It's the law. We can't have child labor. It's the law. I don't know. Again, maybe I should ask a fucking statist. Why can't 16-year-old kids get a job? Why can't a 16-year-old kid be an accountant? What would their excuse be? What would the statist excuse be for that? Not really sure, actually. So you have a high school, and it is essentially a trade school. So your kid goes there and it's like, okay, your child is going to learn to be a plumber. Your child is going to learn some skill set that can be applied in the real world and will result in the child making money. That's the end goal. The skill set could be, like I said, anything: carpentry, plumbing, electrical, whatever. The high school would get paid when the child graduates. The child goes out, the child starts making, I guess it may not be a child anymore, the person, let me start referring to them as people. They're not people, they're children, and they're really good with barbecue sauce. The people would go forth from high school and do work as electricians or plumbers or carpenters or whatever, and there would be a deal between them and the high school. They would pay the high school a percentage of their income. And perhaps there's different ways of doing it. Perhaps the high schools are like, okay, you will owe us $1,000. That's the total amount you have to pay us, and however long it takes you to pay it, that's how long it takes you to pay it. And you give us 10% of your income every month that you make using the trade we taught you, right? So if you go to be an electrician and then you do your electrical work, but on the side you have a web design business, they don't get any of your money from the web design. They only get a percentage of your income from being an electrician. So they get this percentage until they get $1,000. Or perhaps maybe the agreement with the high school is you will give us 10% of your income from the trade we teach you for the next 5 years. Maybe it's based on time as opposed to a certain amount of money. Now the statist is going to argue this will never work because you have to have a government to oversee everybody's income and make sure they actually pay the high school instead of cheating the high school. And when the statist says this reveals a lot of things about the statist. It reveals the fact that the statist believes nobody can be trusted. You see, we have to have the government to make sure that these people who have graduated from the high school and know how to do a trade, we have to have the government to make sure they don't lie. Because in the statist view of the world, nobody can be trusted. Everybody is evil. This is how you see the parallels between statism, which is a religion, and Christianity, which is a religion. The original sin. Everybody has sin, right? The statist believes everybody is a liar. Nobody can be trusted. Everybody will steal and lie and rip off other people every chance they have. And that's why we need the government, is to protect people from other people, because everybody is a bad person. And we've got to have the government to stop people from being bad. Well, maybe in a non-statist society, maybe in an anarcho-capitalist society, maybe parents would teach their children ethics. Maybe they would teach them to do unto others as you expect others to do unto you. Maybe their parents would teach them about universally preferable behavior. Maybe their parents would teach them that if you make an agreement with the high school to pay them, then you should pay them. Maybe in a anarcho-capitalist society, everybody wouldn't be scumbags, because nobody would be sitting around waiting for the state to wipe their asses for them, and nobody would be taught by the state that everybody else is trying to steal from them and only the state can protect them. Maybe in an anarcho-capitalist society, people would have personal responsibility. They'd have some pride and some fucking dignity. You make an agreement, you stick to it. If you don't stick to it, then you get ostracized. There's all sorts of ways this could work out that do not involve the need to have a cocksucker like Hussein Obama murdering people in foreign countries with flying robots. Now, the other form of high school would be there to prepare students to go to college, to go to advanced educational institutes. Same thing. Works exactly the same way. There's a specific end goal of this high school. For the child to be able to get into a college of choice. So the child says, you know what, I want to be an aerospace engineer. Okay? So then what sort of things would you need? And learning advanced topics at a younger age would, of course, also make the time that people have to spend in college shorter. I mean, why in the fuck does college take 4, 6, 8 years. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Seriously? And again, we know why it does. Because the old people want to keep the young people out of the workforce as long as possible. And of course, the college, by stretching out the length of time, can make more money via tuition, which the college gets more money, obviously. The banking corporations that create the loans get more money, obviously. And the college graduates have more debt, which means they have to pay more money back, which keeps them enslaved to corporate jobs and keeps them from being keeps them from starting their own businesses. For those of us who can't fucking talk. Okay, so there's a huge amount of benefits to the corporations and to the old people and to the state for keeping people in college as long as possible. The advantage for the young people would be to go to college, learn what they need to learn, and then get the fuck out there and be able to use it and apply it and start making money and start learning in the real world, because there's a big difference between learning shit in a college classroom and actually doing it. And I do think that each of them has value. I don't want to... I rag on... Obviously, I rag on the education system a lot. I rag on colleges a lot. I rag on college classes a lot. Haven't taken plenty of them. Haven't worked at college, blah, 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 blah. I do believe classroom learning does have a place and it does have a value. But it needs to be balanced with real life practical learning. Okay. Smells like bacon. It's the future of America, right out there. I'm pretty sure you heard that because I saw the waveform spiking. Smells like bacon. I thought it smelled like fish. What are they making girls out of nowadays? Anyway. Ooh, yes. Alright. Train of thought. Where was I? How am I on time? I have Randy here to tell me what the fuck's going on. Alright. Yes. High school. Preparing people for college. So it's going to teach them the things they need to know to get into the college, and it's going to teach them things to help them accelerate through the college as quickly as they can. So that's your end point. So the child goes to the high school, the anarcho-capitalist high school, and says, I want to be an aerospace engineer. I want you to teach me the things I need to know in order to be accepted by a college to be an aerospace engineer. And we'll talk about the college in a minute, because that's sort of critical, because it's going to be different than the way colleges are now. And so bang, he goes there for however long, and they say, okay, these are the things we think you need to know. And there's agreed upon a price, however that price is going to work out. Whether it's a time, whether it's a fixed amount, whatever, and then a percentage of his income, yada, yada, yada. So you work that out. He goes through, he completes it. They give him a piece of paper. They say, hey, you've learned these things. Go show this to the college. He shows it to the college. The college gives him some kind of test, a pre-admissions test. He passes it or he doesn't. If he gets into the college, if he gets accepted in the aerospace engineering program, then he owes the high school money. If he does not get accepted, he owes them nothing, because they did not deliver the product they promised to deliver. If you go to the fucking grocery store and you buy a box of Wheaties and you pay for it, and you come home and you open the box of Wheaties and there's no Wheaties in it, you take it back and you get your money back. If you don't get what you were promised, you don't pay for it. That's how the fucking market works. Education has managed to completely, because of the state, exempt itself from the market. The education system, the public schools, get paid regardless of whether or not the students get anything. And that's why it doesn't fucking work. As soon as you tie high schools being paid money to the students being able to do something useful, economically productive, something that forwards and advances their lives with the education they got, that's when the shit will fucking sort itself out. Until then, you're going to get nothing but failure. Nothing but what we have right now. Total fucking absolute failure. College. I talked about this in the anarchy moment. I'm going to talk about it some more. So colleges, how do colleges work? Well, first of all, the college, just like the high school, only gets paid if you graduate from the college. So let's take our aerospace engineering student. He got out of high school, he got his initial education, he knows a bunch of stuff, he gets into the college, they accept him for the aerospace engineering program. He moves through the classes. You can move through the classes as quickly as you want. There's probably always going to be some classes that are classroom based, and you can only go through those so fast. I would envision an anarcho-capitalist college being a combination of computerized online learning like Khan Academy and classroom learning, and hopefully for a lot of things like something like aerospace engineering, some hands-on stuff. So there would be parts of it that could be accelerated through quickly, other parts that would take time simply because you would be doing them as a classroom, as a group, with a teacher on a schedule, because that is valuable. I do believe that is valuable, but that should not be the central focus of everything. Upon completing that program, he gets a diploma, and it's the same thing. There's an agreement. You got this diploma. You get a job in aerospace engineering. You pay us back either for a fixed amount of time or until a fixed amount of money is reached, and you do it as a percentage of your income. And bang, you go forth. Now, the advantage of this college system is that, and this is something that those of you who are statists, you should love this. What I'm about to say should make you cream your panties. Because I'm like a little surprised I'm even going to say this, but I'm going to say it. Because what I'm about to say is very statist. This system would actually protect people from themselves. And we all know how much you fucking statists love that. Oh, that is your fucking wet fucking dream, is to protect people from themselves, right? Because everybody's so stupid. Except you, of course, you're really intelligent. You don't need to be protected from yourself, but everybody else does. How would an anarcho-capitalist college protect young people from themselves? Here's how. It would prevent them from getting college degrees in stupid shit. Again, let me plug the book. It's written by Aaron Clary. It's called Worthless. It's about worthless college degrees. You see, in an anarcho-capitalist society, an anarcho-capitalist college that only gets paid money if you get a job in the field they trained you for, is not going to train people for fields in which they can't get jobs. No college is going to have a program that will give you a degree in African American studies. No college is going to have a women's studies program. No college is going to have degrees in international relations, communications, puppetry, journalism, English. Yeah, I'm going to get an English degree in a country where everybody speaks English. Right? No college. You're going to go to the college and say, I want to study African American studies. They're going to say, thanks, but you got to go somewhere else. We know you're not going to make any money doing that, and therefore we will never get paid for providing you with that education, and therefore we are not doing that. Now, there would probably still be colleges out there that would provide degrees in things like journalism and African American studies and women's studies, but these would cater exclusively to rich people. Because those would be the colleges, they would know good and goddamn well you can't get a job with a degree in women's studies doing, right now, what do you do with a degree in women's studies? Well, you teach women's studies. That's it. That's all you can fucking do with that. And so these colleges would not operate on the premise that you give us a percentage of your income after you graduate. Those would be the colleges that would operate on the system of you pay us before we give you the degree because we know you're not going to make any money. So the only people that would get those worthless degrees would be people who were willing to take out loans on their own, or who had a lot of money because, maybe older people who have had jobs and saved up money, or young people who have rich parents. So those degrees in things like journalism and women's studies can still exist, but those you're going to have to pay for up front because everybody knows you're not going to make any fucking money doing that. And so, thus, young people who don't have a large amount of money available to them will be forced by the system. You see, you statists should love this part. You should fucking be creaming your fucking panties right now. Young people who aren't rich and want to go to college would be forced to go to college for some field that will actually allow them to get a job and will actually allow them to make money. Because if the college only gets paid after the student graduates, after the student has a degree, and based on the student making money in the field the student was taught by the college, then the colleges are going to make goddamn sure they're teaching people something they can use to get a job. They are not going to fuck around with teaching people worthless shit like women's studies and journalism and communications and all the other fucking liberal arts math avoidance shit. They're going to teach these kids shit that they can use to get a fucking job and make a lot of money, because that's how the colleges will make money, as opposed to now where the colleges just get money. I mean, all those little drunken kids out there right now, their futures are abysmal, and the college is going to get paid. CSU is going to get their money, the banking corporations are going to get their money, and the state will just cruise right along, just grinding these stupid little kids up because they cannot see how they're being shit on. Because Obama, and he gave me free health care.